Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Commodity TV and a new online version of our online edition of our online videos. And we want to get first insight into a new company, Mogotes Metals. And we have Alan Sabit here, the CEO of the company. Welcome. And how are you, Alan?
Super. Thanks, Jochen. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time. Very interesting company. I must say, I did not know you also I would say 8 weeks ago, but I absolutely understand copper, molybdenum, gold, silver. Those are the things we want to be in, especially copper. And you are in one of the most prolific areas in the world. You are really a direct neighbor to to Filo mining, to the Filo Del Sol project. So please get us shortly a little overview before we go into medias res.
Yeah, sure. So the project that we have is called the Filo Sur project, and that just means south of Filo. And so we're an exploration company. We're looking for copper gold deposits, and we're situated directly south and part of the prolific Vicuña district. So directly south of the Filo del Sol discovery and part of the Vicuña copper district. This is a significant district because it's delivered in the last 3 years alone, something like $5 billion of market value following two consecutive, very large emerging copper discoveries. One by a company called Filo and one by a company called NGEX Minerals, both of whom are our neighbors. So Filo, our project is, let's say here, Filo is directly north of us. And then if you keep going north, is NGEX Minerals. So all these discoveries are in a line. We're part of the same district, extensive alteration and extensive copper across the system. We're really looking for something of that scale, something serious in copper that could really, be of interest to our investors.
Yeah, so that sounds to me like, of course, I know it. You are in elephant territory. That's exactly what we want to have because, as we know, geology and especially mineralization does not stop at a boundary, and that's a good thing. So you just released on the 8th July the Vicuña exploration update for your Filo Sur project, and you had some first positive initial results from the new Filo Alunita and Rincon prospects. You did approximately 2,200 meters of diamond core drilling, which is fantastic. Please tell us something more about that.
Yes. So exactly as you said, we've wrapped up the field season. Just for context, this is high up in the mountains in Argentina. So where we're able to work is in the months of, let's say, October through to June, if we're lucky, depending on the weather. And so we've wrapped up our field season this year and conducted 2,200 meters of drilling. But also importantly, we had a surface program that consisted of extensive surface exploration, where we have geologists walk the ground and map and take observations and samples, and really that's where new things are found. That's the starting point of new discoveries.
Yeah.
And so we've been working in this project for over 2 years now. And what's happened here is that in our first field season here in late 2022, we did a very systematic program, and we took a very systematic approach because we wanted to be sure that in our very large land package, all of the potential targets are on our radar, and we're able to then prioritize accordingly and address the most attractive ones first. So that's the approach we took. And in terms of the method, I can bore you here with all the details, but we did new sampling, new mapping, new geophysics. So we threw all the tools in the tool belt at this thing. And what was really interesting about that was that a whole host of new geophysical anomalies came out of the geophysical work. And almost all of these were untested, undrilled, unidentified before we had started our work, which really proved the merit of the approach that we took. But also we found in the surface sampling that several areas that had not been sampled before were throwing up anomalous copper in soils, anomalous gold in soils, okay? And just for background, for those who don't know how these are done, it's basically a grid. So we send out a team. They're hazarding the terrain and picking up a sample every 50 meters or 100 meters in a grid. And when you have that data, you're able to process it and create kind of a map of where anomalous copper and gold is. So all of this to say is what came up in that first field season was a number of new areas that we found anomalous copper in soils or gold in soils. and a number of geophysical anomalies, which is the subsurface, where we use electrical current to give us an idea of what could be happening. And this season, we followed up those anomalies, and we were very excited by what we found. So, for instance, in this Rincon area, we had an area where we'd pushed through a road through the mountainside in order to see what's under the scree, or the loose soil cover that you see on the side of the mountain. So we pushed through a road, and 150 meters of veining in rock, intense veining, copper oxides were visible. And in fact, that came through in the labs with anomalous gold, anomalous copper, anomalous molybdenum. And so what does that mean? That means that we have a new area, previously unidentified, at least 150 meters. This is what we can observe. The road actually stops in one of the cases. So we actually think it could be wider potentially. And then following on from seeing that, our team went south and discovered just at the surface more of these veined rocks. Now, the veining is interesting because there's minerals in there. We're seeing copper in there. We're seeing gold in there, as the lab is telling us. So they found another zone. So here's where we decided to bulldoze a trench through, which is just a long ditch, basically. And again, 200 meters of mineralization there. Okay, so those rocks are in the lab. And we're really excited because you can see some photos in the press release. Some of them are pretty mineralized, right? So what we think, and what's funny is that it keeps going. So you keep going south another kilometer, and there's again anomalous copper in soils. Here we didn't get the chance to finish trenching because the weather actually closed us out of the field season. But what it looks like is a multiple kilometer trend running north-south, roughly north-south. It's a little bit angled, and several hundreds of meters wide potentially of mineralization. Now, what kind of mineralization and where we are in the system, in the porphyry system, remains to kind of be determined definitively, but it's definitely exciting because very mineralized, completely unidentified till now, and large in scale, large enough in any case, and we hope that we can extend it even further south with the next field season. And sitting underneath this anomalous elements in copper and soils and golden soils is large geophysical anomalies. So what does that mean? That means we think we're onto something that could emerge to be a really exciting drill target. We think we're at the top of a system potentially, and that we hope that this will shape up into a drill target where we can drill it to depth and hopefully find something significant. So that's the Rincon target. The other area we talked about is called Filo Alunita. Now this is interesting and very significant because again it's about 2 kilometers of length, where we've identified what looks to be what's called a high sulfidation epithermal type mineralization or structure. So we identified this by I referred to previously our systematic approach. One of the tools on our tool belt is satellite imagery analysis. So in that category, there's a number of different ways to acquire imagery. We acquired multispectral imagery over quite a large part of this district. What this allowed us to do is zone in to a much higher resolution on the parts of the property where we're seeing altered rocks. And in this case, the imagery analysis from WorldView-3 satellites showed us a structure that even though we had guys walking all over this ground for the last couple of decades, even our own team a year prior, we had not identified this with our naked eye. It's actually difficult to tell the difference between the rocks because they're so altered, right? So we followed it up this season, and we have one sample in the corner of this 2-kilometer trend, which grades over 4 grams of gold and over 100 grams a ton of silver. We don't actually know the number. We didn't have enough sample to re-assay and get the exact silver, but very, very cool to see. And so we think this entire 2-kilometer trend is a very worthy target for further exploration, perhaps with trenches and perhaps with drilling, but it will require a bit of follow-up. But it's exciting because, again, it could be a potentially very interesting high sulfidation epithermal drill target for the company.
But there's so far no copper discovered at Filo Alunita?
So it's anomalous in copper in those samples, but not to the degree of a porphyry target because we've got a different level in the system.
Okay, super. Would you say that you more concentrate, let's say, on the precious metal side or more on the copper side? Or do you say, you know what, we are just in the beginning, whatever we find and it makes sense economically, we are on?
I would say that whatever we find economically we are on is a statement that nobody can argue with, Jochen. But we're certainly looking for copper, right? And in this system,
Okay, yeah,
we will be finding if it's anything like Filo or anything like the
yeah,
neighboring system, what you have is what's called telescoping. So you see that the high sulfidation epithermal mineralization and the
yeah.
porphyry mineralization can kind of collapse onto each other. And
Okay, that means telescoping.
forgive me for the geologists in town who may
Yeah,
not agree with my definition. But
yeah,
so what this means is that you're getting what's more of a precious metals type metal mix, which
yeah,
is in the high sulfidation epithermal, and then you get more of a
yeah.
copper, gold, moly in the porphyry copper sector.
Hmm.
And so these things may actually be mixed, which is what we're seeing over at Filo del Sol. And
Hmm.
so, look, there's potential for that to be happening in our project. There's potential for us to discover them discreetly or separately as well. So both
Hmm.
things are possible.
Okay, super. So I see in your presentation you have altogether 7 new exploration targets. So we spoke already, for example, about Rincon. How about the others? What do you want to do in this field season? What
Yeah.
are your objectives you want to really get done?
Yeah. So we're super excited. Again, most of these targets are not tested. In fact,
Hmm.
what you'll see in our latest press release is we lay out why we're interested in each of them. So one of the most interesting ones is it's called Meseta, and it's up in the north,
Hmm.
the very north part of our project, and in fact borders Filo del Sol.
Yeah, yeah.
Super interesting for us there. Again, not sampled. There we found vuggy silica outcrops, which is significant. It's the kind of rock you see above the very high
Hmm.
grade zone at Filo del Sol. So we found what our geologists are saying is vuggy silica outcrops. We found
Hmm.
that the sampling that we've done there is fairly anomalous in gold. I think the numbers are on the press release if you'd like to see them. And then when we did our geophysics, what we're seeing there is very interesting geophysical targets on a number of different dimensions, i.e., both in the IP and in the magnetotellurics, we're seeing interesting bodies. They actually coincide. And so the geophysical model conceptually tells us this could be what's potentially a high sulfidation epithermal target sitting above a potentially mineralized porphyry. We don't know this for sure, but the signs are there that encourage us that this is a very exciting target. And again, untested. What was interesting last season
Hmm.
was we saw Filo actually bring a drill rig very, very close to the border of that target. They drilled it.
Uh-huh.
They encountered moderate mineralization throughout the whole hole. But the follow up commentary was interesting. It's where they stated that this hole warrants significant additional exploration. So we're going to get up there and we're going to work it. And we have got some potential drill holes that we've planned over there as well. So in terms of the other targets, Jochen, we've got a few that are in the kind of in the backpack. We've got in the south. There's an area called Stockwork Hills where there's extensive kind of stockwork at the surface. It has not been fully explored, and adjacent to that
Hmm.
is an area called Cruz del Sur. And we did put one drill hole into there, approximately 500 meters, and the lab assays from that are pending, and the commentary
Okay.
is in the hole. And in the press release that we just released, we've got the Colorita zone, which is a kind of quite large area where multiple porphyries are exposed at surface. There's been some drilling in the past, and what we're trying to zero in on is a large geophysical target that we started drilling this last season. And it was a
Hmm.
very interesting hole. It went to approximately 1.1 kilometers. The first 800 meters, intercepted a hydrothermal breccia um,
Hmm.
that we believe we're onto something quite interesting. The commentary from the technical team is in the release. That's beyond my scope. But we know that we're heading into something quite interesting. We've already got ideas of where we would go next in that system. So we do want to do some more drilling there. And there's a few other areas that are worthy of mentioning. Cumbre is another one.
Hmm.
Filo Alunita we've spoken about. And there's an area called
Hmm.
Frontera as well, where we
Hmm.
started our third hole. We were seeing a
Yeah.
transition from D veins to B veins. So the kinds of things that you like to see coming into the porphyry system, we had to stop. So that's unfortunate, but the weather in this kind of part of the world turned quite cold early. So a number of our peers, actually, and ourselves included, had to pack up the field season early and kind of
Okay.
head home.
Okay, super. So there's a lot of work to be done, that's for sure, and it looks
Yeah.
really prospective, I would say. Let's come to some financial numbers because that's also important. How much cash is in the bank? Are you financed for this year, and let's say also parts of next year?
So, Jochen, as of June 15th, we had 8.5 million Canadian dollars. So we're well funded to go into the future and to run our program in this coming field season.
Okay, super. Also, what I found really interesting is for a company, let's say, of your size, you have a really interesting stock registry. I mean, with Conwave, which we know very well, they are a neighbor of us in here, is our Crescat, we know well, Sprott Funds. So, wow, how did you come on that? That's great.
Yeah, look, a lot of thanks to these partners of ours who have supported us. I think what they see in this project is potentially something very, very large scale. I mean, you look at the leverage if we make a discovery, and you look at our company and the valuation that we're trading at, and you look at what's happened to the peer companies who are worth now 3 billion Canadian or 1.5 billion in the case of our other neighbor NGEX, and you say, look, if a discovery is made here, this could potentially be large. So potential scale is there. And I think that's one of the things that is a first tick. Then you come in and you look at the project. Is there a merit to the project? And when you look at the data sets that we've put together and how they all coalesce into coherent target areas, it's impressive. There isn't many exploration projects that offer this kind of scale upside, but also have technical merit behind them and are in a commodity that will obviously be required into the long term. So we're not in a small market. We're in copper. And quite frankly, there is not significant copper supply around. So we're not only in a good commodity, but we're probably one of the best places in the world to be looking for copper, in my opinion. And so this kind of project does attract the kind of investors who know exploration and who know what is an attractive exploration project. So naturally, some of the investors in that category have been attracted. And so we thank them. And it's been good.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, it looks like what we hear is that companies like BHP, etc., like the big boys are behind Filo mining already with Landin, of course, together. So you are the direct neighbor. And I mean, that could spin something together big in the future, right?
Yeah, certainly. We know also that some interesting developments have been occurring at the country level. So, as you know, Argentina's had a quite, I would say, varied history when it comes to mining. But what that's meant is that a lot of the great opportunities in mining have still yet to be kind of yielded the most fruit. And so what I'm expecting in the coming 5 years is that the country, we see quite a few mining projects come online. So legislation has been passed to facilitate mining investment, and policies and regulation and red tape has been cut, and the doors are opening for real investment to flow into the country. And what I'm seeing is increased corporate interest at the highest levels into Argentina as a whole. And when you look at Argentina and you look at discoveries and you look at copper, you're looking at the Vicuña district. So, and that's what you rightfully kind of pointed out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Super. Alan, thank you very much. This was a great first insight into your company. I would say we wait for some more results then in the coming months. Really look forward to that. And we wish you well and all the best, and we talk soon.
Thanks so much, Jochen. Talk soon.
Thank you very much. Talk soon. Ladies and gentlemen, there was Alan Sarbet, the CEO of Mogotes Metals, and you heard it. They are in elephant territory. They have enough money to really rock it, and the share registry looks like the who is who in mining. And I really must say, copper, gold, silver, molybdenum. Those are the things you want to be in. Those are the metals of choice. Those are the metals of high demand, and they are in deficit. That's exactly where you want to place your bets and your money. And honestly, they are really in a fantastic location. Argentina really has tuned up a lot since the elections. And yeah, we are very positive for the company. Make sure you do your due diligence on Mogotes Metals. Thanks for watching us, and bye-bye from Austria today.